5 months have passed since the last update to Red Dead Online at the recording of this video. On December 13th, 2019, we got Moonshiners along with Outlaw Pass 2. I believe that Moonshiners was originally intended to come out a month earlier or a few weeks prior, but there were probably some behind-the-scene issues with the QA, and that's why Rockstar had to release Moonshiners on Friday, December 13th, 2019. It was overshadowed by another update from another game that they just happened to also make content for, GTA Online Casino Heist. So it was definitely overshadowed by that game as well as that update. So the Moonshiner Role was a continuation of the Trader Role, and you had to be, I think, Role Rank 5 in the Trader before Crips would introduce you to Maggie Fike, and then it would cost you 25 bars of gold in order to purchase the Moonshine Shack for Maggie in order to start the Moonshiner Roll. The Moonshiners update came with the Moonshiner Roll as well as Outlaw Pass 2, which ran from December 2019 all the way till March 2020. And that means that it's been, at least 2 months since the previous Outlaw Pass. As with all updates, Moonshiners started off with issues from players not being able to make sells, to not being able to initiate story missions for Moonshiners, or even purchase Moonshine Shacks for reasons. Now, what came with the Moonshiners update was the Moonshine Shack, which once again, you'll be able to purchase for 25 bars of gold. First, you had to be a trader. Then the Moonshine Shack allowed you to eventually upgrade the bar, as well as add a band, and of course, some of the characters that are involved in the Moonshiner Role include Maggie, as well as Marcel, who's the guy responsible for making your moonshine, as well as Maggie's nephew, Lim, the MacGuffin. The only weapon that we got with the Moonshiner update was the Navy revolver, and this is a weapon that a lot of players enjoy using. It's basically a revolver cannon. It gets the job done. And for everybody that also had their Rockstar Social Club account linked to Red Dead Online, as well as Grand Theft Auto Online, had the option to get the Navy revolver not only in Grand Theft Auto Online, do a little scavenger hunt, but they could also acquire the variant known as the Lowry's revolver for free in Red Dead Online. So yes, a lot of people really enjoy using the Navy revolver. So it's definitely a plus, a pro of the Moonshiners update, but unfortunately it was the only weapon that came with that update. Specifically for the Moonshiner Roll, we got some new dynamics, the bootlegger dynamics, which randomly spawn across the map, or you can initiate them at the Moonshine Shack through Maggie, and it would pitch you up against either revenue agent roadblocks or taking out rival Moonshiner stills. And there was also the very rare occasional poison poppy dynamic that will spawn occasionally, allowing you the opportunity to get the much coveted poison poppy recipe. Early on, Rockstar made a little oopsie and made it to where it was almost impossible for players to get this rare recipe, which made it more coveted, more valuable than it actually is. I think that they put, a 30-day limit on it or something, but then they went back and they fixed it. And so it spawns a lot more common now, dynamic-wise, than it used to. And, of course, the Revenue Agents was one of the new bad guys introduced, a new faction. Very spongy, very aimbody. That's the Revenue Agents for you. A lot more difficult to take on than, say, the Driscolls or any other enemy NPCs in Red Dead Online. Along with all that, we got Moonshiner story missions that you could replay after you complete them, and you could change the difficulty. My personal favorite, the one where you're on the boat defending Lim the MacGuffin up from Ansburg all the way down to Saint Denis, while continuing to be attacked and pursued by wave after wave of revenue agents on land and by sea. We also got the Moonshiner Cells, which is another way for you to make money in the game. You go to Marcel after you rescue him, and eventually you get to upgrade your moonshine cell, the distillery for Marcel, where you can produce better quality moonshine, which takes longer to produce, but it gives you more money. And then, of course, different flavors that you can have recipe-wise, depending on things that you happen to collect throughout the world of Red Dead Online. Various herbs, plants, as well as certain collectible plants like agritas and a few others too, will increase the value of the moonshine that Marcel is brewing for you to sell. A good way to make money once you have that fully maxed out and the best superior quality. In conjunction with trader cells, moonshiner cells go hand in hand because you could rotate between the two while you're playing around in Red Dead Online, while you're stacking up pelts and whatnot for crypts to produce materials for you to sell through the trader roll. You also have Marcel in the shack working on a batch of shine for you to eventually sell as well. So another opportunity for us to make money in the game through the Moonshiner cell. Along with the Moonshine Shack, the bar, the band, the ability to sell some shine through Marcel. We also got some unique Moonshine Roll items exclusively for the Moonshiners, as well as the latest roll horse to be added to Red Dead Online, the Norfolk Roadster, which, yes, is exclusive to the Moonshiner Roll. You have to be a Moonshiner in order to acquire the Norfolk Roadster. There's 6 variations, similar to the previous roll horses, 2 low tier, 2 medium tier, and the 2 top tier horses, which have the best stats and cores for the Norfolk Roadster, as long as you reach roll rank 20 as a Moonshiner. Now, a big reason why I think that we have yet to receive new content, as well as a new Outlaw Pass, post Moonshiners update going on 5 months now, is because of obvious global events such as the pandemic, the bug, whatever you wish to call it. It's resulted in major ramifications throughout the world. Us under lockdown, social distancing, self-quarantining. A lot of people now having to work from home, including a lot of Rockstar employees. And I believe that's a big reason why we're having to wait a little bit longer than originally planned for the next update to Red Dead Online. So hopefully we'll be getting a new update sooner rather than later. Along with Moonshiners and everything else we mentioned, we also got something else that we particularly don't really care for, issues in the game. Now, some of these issues actually predate the Moonshiners update. Some of them persist, no matter how many patches Rockstar has put out since the Moonshiner update dropped back in December 2019. And there's been quite a few quote-unquote patches. We have disconnect still, infinite loading screen bugs, including lack of animal spawns, which have gotten a little bit better. Some people say they're better now. The camp pitch issue still remains, where you have to jump from lobby to lobby or just completely restart the game in order to get your camp to actually pitch properly. And sometimes you get the invisible camp theme, as we jokingly call it, where you show up to the icon on the map where your camp is supposed to be, and lo and behold, nothing. No camp at all. Other problems, as well as sometimes cells not counting when it comes to moonshine cells. And my personal favorite, it's not really one of those issues, but it's part of, I guess, the feature of the moonshine cell, done deliberately, the fragile moonshine bottles. Now, some of you might be experts when it comes to adult beverages, like beer bottles, wine bottles, other various spirit bottles, and you probably know how thick those bottles can be. Not exactly as breakable as some other types of glass. One would expect for somebody that prizes his moonshine as much as Marcel, always telling you to be careful and take good care of the shine, that he would also make sure that the moonshine bottles that he puts his shine in would also be of exceptional quality. But unfortunately, these particular bottles are extremely fragile. And even if you just want to take a shortcut and go slow and steady off-road across the Heartlands without any bumps or issues, bottles are still going to magically break. In other words, you are forced to stay on the road. And whenever you're going across a railroad track, you want to go extremely slow, because if you don't, you run the risk of breaking one of those bottles. And sometimes it just happens anyways, whether you want it to happen or not, no matter how hard or careful you're trying to be when you're delivering the shine from the shack to a customer. With all things in life, I think that Rockstar could learn some lessons from the Moonshiner update. There are good updates, there are okay updates, there are bad updates. I would say that overall Moonshiners was an okay update. It could have been better, but it also could have been worse. A lot of people still enjoy the Moonshiner Roll, even though it's 5 months old now. But there are lessons that we could learn. For one thing, I think the formula that Rockstar had with the Frontier Pursuits update, where they added 3 roles at one time, works a lot better for this game, especially when there's a long period in between updates as opposed to one update. So I would like for Rockstar going forward with the roles when it comes to updates to give us 2 or 3 roles at a time when it comes to a new update, as opposed to just one role, because it could be a role that some players don't care for, or it's a role that players are able to easily max out and they're sitting there for many months without another role to focus on. Even if it's a role they originally just didn't have any interest with, out of boredom, they simply decided to just go do that role because it gives them something to do in the game. So I think going forward, Rockstar should adopt a policy similar to the Frontier Pursuits update with 2 or 3 roles at a time instead of just simply 1 role at a time, unless they're going to do a better job getting out the updates at a much faster pace, say 3 months as opposed to 5-6 months, like with case in point the Moonshiner Roll. A lot of that, once again, is out of their control and beyond any of our control because of the bug. And as I mentioned a while back in my State of the Outlaw Pass video, the Outlaw Pass system needs to be a lot more consistent, and they need to do a better job of getting new Outlaw Passes out on a regular basis. It's been, at least 2 months now since the end of Outlaw Pass 2. We should have already got Outlaw Pass 3, and I think going forward, they should separate the Outlaw Pass updates from regular updates, always making sure that there's going to be a new Outlaw Pass starting as the previous one is coming to an end, similar to Battle Passes, Rocket Passes, and various other games. The pass system has been done pretty well in other online games, and that's where obviously Rockstar is getting the idea from the Outlaw Pass from. They just have to do a better job of making sure that it's rotating a lot smoother. I would say a day or at the longest a week between before you start up the next Outlaw Pass. So hopefully they'll eventually get the Outlaw Pass system running a lot smoothly, but they need to do a better job with it than sitting here waiting 2 months in between Outlaw Passes. I think 2 weeks is probably as long as we should have to wait from one Outlaw Pass ending to the beginning of the next. Now going back to the Moonshine Shack itself, it would be nice if we would have a skip option for Marcel's cutscenes. Now, I know that there's purpose behind the cutscenes for Marcel and for Cripps because the game is loading up the trader cell or loading up the moonshine cell for us to do. But Marcel talks a very long time. Several minutes go by before he's finally finished talking, and sometimes all that talking is for naught because you end up in an infinite loading screen. Yay! However, I just wish that we had the ability to skip Cripps and Marcel, especially Marcel. So if they could add a skip option for that dialogue, that would be fantastic. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video as well, improvements they could have made to the Moonshine Shack, specifically making this feel like a property. Because the truth is, we're buying the Moonshine Shack not for ourselves, but for Maggie and Marcel and Lim. I mean, yeah, we can have a bar, we can have a band. We benefit by being able to do moonshine sales through the Moonshine Shack, but it would have been awesome if we'd also had the ability to purchase our own room downstairs and have upgrades, customization options, such as our own wardrobe, a weapons locker, a place like upstairs where they have the stove, where they have the kitchen area where we could just go do some cooking and crafting, as well as a fast travel map, maybe different wall designs in our bedroom, different bed types that would, improve the cores, similar to the tent at the camps. I just would like to have some further customization as well as our own room to, have a place to do all this stuff as well at the Moonshine Shack, so it actually felt like our own property, because we're the ones who put up the gold for it, but it doesn't really feel like we own the place. Overall, I think that Moonshiners is a decent role, despite some of the problems that it has had, and the fact that it was only one role. And I don't think Rockstar intended to go this long without updating Red Dead Online. Obviously, issues have happened, the bug, as well as problems, features within the game that Rockstar is continuing to try and fix through patches. But I believe that we most likely, if everything would have gone smoothly, no bug or other problems, I think that we would have most likely gotten a new update probably by now, if not a month or two sooner. But by itself, Moonshiner is a decent role. It just would have been nice if they would have added 1 or 2 additional roles to go with it. Similar to the way they did Frontier Pursuits with 3 roles as opposed to just 1 role. And they definitely need to work on rotating in new Outlaw Passes on a much more frequent basis. Instead of a 2-month plus delay, it should be a week or 2 tops, as I had already mentioned. But overall, my thoughts regarding the Moonshiners update 5 months later, and I'm curious what you have to say about Moonshiners going on 5 months now. Do you still enjoy doing the Moonshiner Role, the cells, the dynamics, as well as the story missions? What were some things that came with the Moonshiner update that you liked? Did you enjoy the new revolver, the Navy revolver, the new horse, new as in newest in the game, going on 5 months, the Norfolk Roadster? What did you like about Moonshiners? What did you not like about Moonshiners? What kind of formula do you think Rockstar should adopt when it comes to the roles in the future, as well as updates? All your thoughts, views, and opinions, as always, welcome below in the comments section.